My name is Sukant Chandan. I'm one of the coordinators of the Tricontinental Anti-Imperialist Platform, which is a very technical sounding name, but actually it's inspired by an initiative of Cuban socialism in the 60s. You may know about the Tricontinental because Che Guevara made one of his most famous speeches at a Tricontinental conference, which is called the Message of the Tricontinental, in 1967, in which he advocated 1, 2, 3, many Vietnams, including other things, as a strategy for a total defeat of neocolonialism or imperialism at its time. The Tricontinental, our organization, takes the legacy of the original Tricontinental in as much that we give primacy to actually existing Global South struggles and those peoples and those leaderships. Those voices and those struggles that we feel aren't given adequate respect and attention in the so-called West. And so really our agenda, very kind of blatantly, is to say they're the ones who are struggling, they're the ones who have always created a strategic and meaningful change in the world, and that struggle has not stopped, it continues, and the challenge today is for the Global South to defeat neocolonialism altogether, which is in mainstream parlance is understood as the emergence, quote unquote, of a multipolar world. Of course, India, China, Brazil, Russia and others have not emerged. They were always on the scene. It just so happened for the last half millennia that the London, Paris-based, and also Lisbon as well, who were the trailblazers of bloody colonialism, that they interrupted the development, and in Walter Rodney's language, they forcibly underdeveloped the Global South. So that in a nutshell is what the Tricontinental is about. Today we are really honored to be presenting the work of one of the greatest revolutionaries that struggle in the West has given birth to, and that is Sister Assata Shakur. And Sister Assata Shakur is from the Black Panther Party, and I just wanted to spend just a few minutes just to convey who the Black Panthers were. Now, and obviously a few minutes introduction cannot give adequate respect to what the Black Panthers were, but nevertheless, within the time constraints, I'd like to convey a few things. The Black Panthers were a continuation of the intergenerational struggle, not only of all victims of colonialism, but particular those victims, those African victims who were devastated and kidnapped in their hundreds of thousands and were murdered and taken forcibly over to the so-called New World, the Americas. And the Black Panther Party itself is a tradition of resistance to that which continues today. The system which traumatized the African people and then the native people of the Americas and then the Asian people and became a global phenomenon has not really changed in its essence. It is still a genocidal, exploitative and oppressive global system. The Black Panthers were, at their time, the most recent chapter of that resistance and revolution against that oppression. They came directly out of the struggle of the global situation. And I want to kind of reference Robert F. Williams, whose incredible book, Negroes with Guns, is one of the lesser known books of the budding Black Power movement of its time, which the Black Panthers were inspired by and which Malcolm X raised money for guns from Robert F. Williams. Can't go into Robert F. Williams now, but basically he fought against collusion of the KKK and the police in North Carolina in the late 50s. And his struggle not only inspired Malcolm X, but also inspired the Black Panthers. Also, the Panthers themselves in the Malcolm X connection were known as the daughters and the sons of Malcolm as well. And very much, I think Huey Newton and Bobby Seale and the other founding members of the Panthers really took inspiration and direct continuity from the work and ideology of Malcolm X. I think there's 5 pillars, if you forgive me using that parallel, that define the Black Panthers, and this is not in order of importance. First, it's really inculcating their members and popularizing the community and the communities in revolutionary ideology of their time. So they popularized the works of Malcolm X, of Frantz Fanon, of Ho Chi Minh, Kim Il-sung, Mao Zedong, of the revolutionaries in Mozambique and Angola, across that continent, of Fidel Castro, etc. So that's one thing that defined the Black Panthers. The second thing that defined the Black Panthers were the Serve the People programs, or the community programs. the Panthers developed dozens of community programs, the most famous of which, and the most long-lasting in terms of legacy of which, was the free breakfast program for children. They recognized that malnutrition was manifest in the children in their community, so they directly, through a form of direct action, and a very effective direct action, gave nutrition to children before they went to school. And that it was because of the Black Panthers free breakfast program that that movement and other coalescing movements put pressure on the state, which then developed the official preschool breakfast programs that you now see in the United States. But there were many other free programs. There was services given to the families of the prisoners to make sure that they were sent to see their loved ones who were inside the dungeons of the United States system. There was assisting the elderly people to get their social security money in safety, and there's many other security, the free food program as well. Where the very inspiring thing about these Serve the People programs was that the Black Panther members, many of which were on average our age in the room, would wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to feed their children. And I think that is a wonderful ethic that can inspire and inform our work today. The third thing that defined them was militant self-defense, particularly against police brutality. The fourth thing that defined them was global solidarity, but concrete solidarity, not just in words. And most famously, the Black Panthers offered the Vietnamese resistance volunteers to fight alongside the Vietnamese resistance, led by the Vietnamese Communist Party and General Giap and Ho Chi Minh. The Vietnamese said, thank you very much, but no thanks. We would rather that you develop your struggle and revolution within the system in the United States. So there was that great global unity that they had. And again, through the event, we will discuss further the synergy and the unity between the Black Panther Party and Socialist Cuba, Socialist Algeria, Korea, which is most kind of popularly known as North Korea, more correctly the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Socialist China, like I said, Frelimo of Mozambique, just to name a few, and of course Socialist China as well, and Vietnam, etc. And the fifth thing that defines the Black Panthers, I think, is the alliance building. Because although it was the Black Panther Party for self-defense, they also had a few East Asian members, by the by. But they also built the original Rainbow Alliances, which you may have heard that I think Jesse Jackson popularized. But the original Rainbow Alliances was in the Black Panther Party, particularly by the martyred comrade of the Black Panthers, Comrade Fred Hampton, who was massacred in a US counterintelligence program assassination along with Comrade Mark Clark. Now, although this is not part of my 5 pillars of the Black Panthers, I think, and it's very pertinent that I mention this today, but the situation of women in the Black Panthers was very notable. Now, that's not to say that there wasn't a lot of internalized problems in the Black Panthers as a result of misogyny that exists as part of the colonial matrix of power. There was, and there was a lot of problems there, as there are in all of us and all of our organizations. Nevertheless, I don't think it's a coincidence that some of the most preeminent women revolutionaries from the United States were either in the Black Panthers or very closely associated. So still today, we have Comrade Angela Davis, who still is a prominent and primary activist, who was not actually in the Black Panthers. Also, she obviously assisted Jonathan and George Jackson, who were Panther members, but she was actually a member of the Communist Party of the USA. There's also Elaine Brown, who's still an activist, who became one of the last leaders of the Black Panthers. There is also Kathleen Cleaver as well, who was a leader of the Panthers, who sought exile in Algeria and visited Socialist Korea. And of course, our dearly beloved Assata Shakur as well. Now, just going to spend a few minutes just reading one particular document which may interest you. And this is a COINTELPRO, that's the counterintelligence program, which was a secret program whose secret papers was only revealed to the public because some anti-imperialist activists had raided an FBI building in the late 70s and released and made public these documents. This is a very infamous memorandum from the counterintelligence program that I wanted to share with you. It's from the 3rd of April 1968, and it's and it's entitled Counterintelligence Program, Black Nationalist Hate Groups, Racial Intelligence. So this is an FBI memorandum. Its goals: 1, to prevent the coalition of militant black nationalist groups. This is the FBI talking, right? In unity there is strength, a truism that is no less valid for all the triteness. An effective coalition of black nationalist groups must be the first step towards a real Mau Mau, Black Revolutionary Army in America, the beginning of a true black revolution. It's one of the most famous quotes from the Counterpro program. 2, prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify and electrify the militant black nationalist movement. Malcolm X might have been such a messiah. He is the martyr of the movement today. Martin Luther King, Stokely Carmichael, nay Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Ture, and Elijah Muhammad all aspire to this position. Elijah Muhammad is less of a threat because of his age. King could very well be a contender for this position should he abandon his supposed obedience to white liberal doctrines of non-violence and embrace black nationalism, which he definitely was, I think, gravitating towards. Carmichael has the necessary charisma to be a real threat in this way. 3, to prevent violence on part of the black nationalist groups. 4, to prevent, this is interesting, to prevent militant black nationalist groups and leaders from gaining respectability by discrediting them to 3 separate segments of the community. The goal of discrediting black nationalists must be handled tactically in 3 ways. You must discredit those groups and individuals to, first, the responsible Negro community. Second, they must be discredited to the white community, both the responsible community and the liberals who have vestiges of sympathy for militant black nationalists simply because they are Negroes. Third, these groups must be discredited in the eyes of Negro radicals, the followers of the movement. The last area requires entirely different tactics from the first 2. And 5, a final goal should be to prevent the long-range growth of militant black organizations, especially amongst the youth. Specific tactics prevent these groups from converting young people must be developed. And that, again, is very pertinent in terms of our event for Assata Shakur, because I think we can clearly see not only has that counterintelligence program not stopped in the late 70s, it continued, and I think in popular, more recent youth culture, and in direct connection to Assata Shakur and the East Coast Panthers of Afeni Shakur and Mutulu Shakur, is Afeni's son herself, who she had in her womb when she was in prison as part of the New York 21. That's our beloved brother, again martyred, Tupac, the rapper, whose schism with Biggie was definitely a continuation of the counterintelligence program. And that continues today in Britain. It's a neo-colonial counterintelligence program.